What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Tuesday, December 12th, 2023, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 9:04 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have another mysterious house explosion, this time in Pennsylvania, in a suburb of Pittsburgh. And this occurred just a few days after a house explosion in Oneonta, New York. And then a few days before that one, we had a house explosion in Alexandria, Virginia, just a few miles away from the Pentagon and downtown DC. So this is really unusual, guys. I'm going to continue to monitor the situation and update you, but just be on high alert. The FBI director said over a week ago that the threat of terrorism here in the United States is the highest he's ever seen in his career. And we have the EU warning about terrorism this coming holiday season. So be on high alert, guys. What you're looking at here is a live flight tracker showing military planes over the United States, and we have some interesting activity tonight. We currently have a nuclear war command and control plane off the coast of New Jersey and Long Island, and it's flying out here off the continental shelf, and it's been doing these loops here for the last few hours. And these planes are responsible for communicating with our nuclear armed submarines, and they're also responsible for issuing launch orders to the nuclear armed submarines, and they can also remotely launch all of our Minuteman III ICBMs. And we also have some interesting activity off the coast of Florida. We have a P-8 Poseidon that's been doing tight loops off the coast of Cocoa Beach and Cape Canaveral. And at the same time, an aerial refueler was out here doing these triangle patterns. So very, very interesting. Not sure what's going on over there. And we had two nuclear bombers airborne earlier today in the afternoon. We had two B-52 Stratofortress bombers in the air. They both took off from Minot. One of them was aerially refueled over north central Montana. The other one went south towards the Ozarks and turned its transponder off. And here's a screenshot of one of the B-52s right before it turned its transponder off in northern Missouri. And we also had a combat sentinel plane and a nuke sniffer plane airborne at the same time as the B-52s. And the combat sentinel planes are special reconnaissance planes that are used to provide intelligence to the president and the Joint Chiefs directly. Okay, so they're a high priority reconnaissance plane. And then the nuke sniffer plane is used to detect radiation in the atmosphere. And yesterday we had 6 nuclear war command and control planes in the air. Okay, here's a screenshot from yesterday. This is unprecedented, guys, to have 6 of them in the air. This was yesterday. So we have an update on that tanker ship that was attacked yesterday in the Red Sea, the Norwegian oil tanker by the name of Strinda. Apparently, the French Navy engaged some drones that were flying towards this tanker ship, and they destroyed it. Here's an official press release from the French Navy. On the evening of Monday, December 11th, the oil tanker Strinda was the victim of a complex air attack from Yemen, causing a fire on board. The Frem Languedoc, which was patrolling the area, intercepted and destroyed a drone directly threatening the Strinda. The Frem then placed itself in protection of the affected vessel, preventing the attempt to hijack the ship. The fire on board the Strinda was brought under control. No injuries were reported. The USS Mason then escorted the Strinda to the Gulf of Aden out of the threat zone. Frem Languedoc has resumed its patrol towards the north. So this is crazy, guys. The French Navy stepping up and protecting this oil tanker from getting uh, completely destroyed, um, probably saving the lives of the crew on board. So they intercepted a drone. But what's interesting is the words here. They wrote the victim of a complex air attack from Yemen. Okay. So yesterday, the U.S. Military, the Central Command, said that a missile was fired at this oil tanker. And now the French are saying that a drone was intercepted by them, and they're saying a complex air attack. So that tells me that Yemen fired a bunch of different things at this tanker. Okay. And earlier today, I reported that Israel is sending one of their corvettes to the Red Sea now, the SAR 6, which has a variety of different types of missiles and heavy weapons. Okay. So things are escalating in the Red Sea region. Multiple powerful explosions and air raid sirens have been heard in the last few minutes in the Ukrainian capital city of Kyiv, following reports of ballistic missile launches from Western Russia. So the capital of Ukraine is under attack tonight, right now. The UN General Assembly passed a vote demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Apparently, 153 countries voted in favor, 10 voted against, and 23 abstained. So that's a huge margin, guys. 153 countries out of 193 UN member nations voting in favor for a immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza, and 10 countries voted against it, which included the United States and Israel. And the U.S. vetoed a similar resolution in the UN Security Council last week. And we have some major breaking news coming in tonight that Israel's military has begun pumping seawater into the Hamas tunnel complex beneath Gaza, according to U.S. officials briefed on the Israeli military's operations. So these are U.S. officials confirming this, and the Wall Street Journal broke that news. Okay, so that's legit. So they're now pumping seawater into these tunnels. We're going to see what happens now. This is going to get really interesting. And Biden was asked today on the sidelines of his meeting with Zelensky whether hostages were still in the Hamas tunnels. He said he doesn't know for a fact that no hostages are being held in Hamas tunnels. He said, with regard to the flooding of the tunnels, there are assertions being made that there are no hostages in any of these tunnels, but I don't know that for a fact. Okay, so pretty interesting. The Israeli Broadcasting Authority quoted the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, as saying, quote unquote, "We are preparing for the possibility of war with the Palestinian Authority." Wow, guys. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, apparently saying that Israel is preparing for war with the Palestinian Authority. This is being reported by the Israeli Broadcasting Authority. We have some strong words and chilling words coming from Ophir Gendelman, the spokesman for the Prime Minister of Israel. And we have some strong words from the spokesman for the Prime Minister of Israel, Ophir Gendelman. And he said that the military operation against Hamas in Gaza will continue until Hamas is eliminated and there's no more security threat from Hamas. But he warned that Beirut could face the same fate as Gaza if the Lebanese Hezbollah launch a war against Israel. So very, very strong words there. And the IDF says aircraft and tanks completed a series of strikes in southern Lebanon and Syria earlier today in response to rocket attacks on northern Israel. In Syria, the IDF says it hit Syrian army infrastructure, including an observation post, and in Lebanon, it says it hit a Hezbollah rocket launcher. Hezbollah claimed responsibility for several rocket and missile attacks from Lebanon today. Meanwhile, 3 rockets were also fired from Syria, apparently by an Iran-backed group. So things are heating up with Syria, Lebanon, and Israel. It's just continuing to escalate, and Israel striking Syrian army infrastructure is a big deal. Okay, they're actually attacking the Syrian army now. This is serious, guys. Reports from Qatar are coming in that the Hamas Politburo figures that have been living there have been told to evacuate to Algeria after Qatar authorities informed them that their security could no longer be guaranteed. And we're hearing that senior Hamas officials in Qatar and Lebanon have reportedly begun to disappear within the past week, with Qatari sources claiming that they have left for unknown destinations and that since then they have been unreachable by cell phone. Salih al-Aruri, a senior leader of Hamas and founder of the Al-Qassam brigades, has also not been heard from since he suddenly departed from his residence in Beirut, Lebanon a few days ago. So this is interesting, guys. Okay, the rats are fleeing. Okay, they're afraid that Israel's going to assassinate them. Mossad is going to take them out. So this is interesting, guys. And the U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is going to visit Bahrain, Qatar, and Israel next week. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin will visit Israel next week as the Biden administration maintains a near weekly shuttle of top officials visiting the region to coordinate with Israel in its war against Hamas. Defense Department spokesperson Pat Ryder said in a briefing that Lloyd Austin will use next week's visit to Bahrain, Qatar, and Israel to advance the Pentagon's objectives in the war, including protecting U.S. forces in the region, supporting Israel's right to self-defense, securing the release of hostages, and ensuring that the crisis doesn't escalate into a broader regional conflict. Austin's trip will come days after U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan visits Israel. Last week, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris's National Security Advisor Phil Gordon went to the Middle East, and U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken visited Israel the week before. This will be Lloyd Austin's second trip to Israel since the outbreak of the war. So this is a pretty important visit, guys, okay? Important visit. The U.S. Secretary of Defense visiting all these critical Middle Eastern countries, Qatar, Israel, Bahrain. We have bases in Qatar and Bahrain. Okay, so no wonder he's visiting those countries. And Biden had some interesting words to say about Israel and the war. So I'm going to read to you what he said today. This was on the sidelines of his meeting with Zelensky. And I'm going to update you guys probably tomorrow on everything from that meeting, okay, because there's a lot to analyze with that. So that'll be tomorrow. In a striking critique, U.S. President Joe Biden on Tuesday went after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and members of his hardline coalition over their opposition to a two-state solution, while warning that Israel was losing global support due to its indiscriminate bombing in Gaza. He said, Netanyahu is a good friend, but I think he has to change, and this government in Israel is making it very difficult for him to move. Biden said during a campaign fundraiser in Washington hosted by former AIPAC board chair Lee Rosenberg. Biden criticized far-right National Security Minister Ben Gvir by name and rehashed a line he used in July. This is the most conservative government in Israel's history. He said he has known Israeli leaders for decades, lamenting that Ben Gvir and company and the new folks don't want anything remotely approaching a two-state solution. They not only want to have retribution, which they should, for what Hamas did, but against all Palestinians. They don't want anything to do with the Palestinians, Biden said. Okay, so very interesting there, calling Ben Gvir out by name. Ben Gvir is an Israeli nationalist. He's a far-right figure in Israel. Very interesting. Biden also took a shot at Palestinian leaders, though he did not specify whether he was referring to Hamas or the Palestinian Authority. He said the Palestinians have not been governed well at all. You cannot say there's no Palestinian state at all in the future. We have to work toward bringing Israel together in a way that provides for the beginning of a two-state solution. Okay, so Biden is in favor of a two-state solution. We're not going to do a damn thing other than protect Israel and ensure they have what they need to defend themselves and to finish the job against Hamas. Biden continued, referring to the Gaza ruling terror organization as animals who exceeded anything that any other terror group has done in memory. The U.S. president recalled how during one of their many conversations since October 7, Netanyahu sought to justify the deaths of civilians in Gaza by recalling how many died in the U.S. response to the Japanese bombing of Pearl Harbor. You carpet bombed Germany, you dropped the atom bomb, a lot of civilians died. Biden quoted Netanyahu as having said, I said, yeah, that's why all these institutions were set up after World War II to see to it that it didn't happen again. Biden said he told Netanyahu in response, don't make the same mistakes we made after 9/11. There was no reason why we had to be in a war in Afghanistan after 9/11. There was no reason why we had to do some of the things we did, Biden said. One of the things that Bibi understands, but I'm not sure Ben Gvir and his war cabinet do, Biden continued, is that Israel's security can rest on the United States, but right now it has more than the United States. It has the European Union. It has most of the world supporting it, but they're starting to lose that support by the indiscriminate bombing that takes place, Biden said. So this is crazy, guys. Biden is saying indiscriminate bombing. I mean, he's like contradicting himself because on one hand, he says, oh, we support Israel, we support Netanyahu, we're going to give them everything that they need. Then on the other hand, he throws them under the bus and says that they're doing indiscriminate bombing, which is just not true at all. Okay? So very interesting words here coming from Biden. And in a joint statement, the prime ministers of Australia, Canada, and New Zealand said they support urgent international efforts towards a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. We are alarmed at the diminishing safe space for civilians in Gaza. The price of defeating Hamas cannot be the continuous suffering of all Palestinian civilians, they said in a statement. They also call for the immediate and unconditional release of all remaining hostages and say that while defending itself, Israel must respect international humanitarian law. The statement says they want to see the temporary truce resumed and support urgent international efforts towards a sustainable ceasefire. This cannot be one-sided. Hamas must release all hostages, stop using Palestinian civilians as human shields, and lay down its arms. There is no role for Hamas in the future governance of Gaza, they add. So very interesting. Australia, Canada, New Zealand calling for a permanent ceasefire. And I want to just read to you something that a subscriber left under one of my videos. This is a comment because a lot of people have been saying that, oh, all these nuclear war command and control planes that are in the air, it's normal. They're just doing exercises. So here we have somebody who watches me that was in the military during the Cold War. So let me read to you what this person said. I was in the military during the 1980s before the Berlin Wall fell. I worked with most of our nuclear inventory as well as B-52s. At that time, loaded B-52s on the alert pad was not to take off unless we were in a hot war and they had orders to drop weapons on the enemy. Also, nuclear command and control planes were not to be in flight like you are showing on the map unless we were in a hot war and a nuclear launch was imminent. The flights I see are unprecedented and deserve an explanation. Okay, so that was a U.S. military veteran that worked on our nuclear forces during the Cold War. And he was saying in this comment that it's unprecedented to have these B-52s and nuclear warplanes in the air. U.S. President Joe Biden told visiting Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky today that it would be a Christmas gift to Russia's Vladimir Putin if Congress fails to pass fresh military aid for Kyiv Speaking in the Oval Office at the White House, Biden said to Zelensky that we are going to stand at your side even as Republicans block a new $60 billion aid package for the war-torn country. The Ukrainian president told Biden that Ukraine's troops prove every day that Ukraine can win. And Poland's new pro-EU prime minister will be sworn in tomorrow. Donald Tusk is calling on all of Europe to fully mobilize to help Ukraine win the war against Russia. And Donald Tusk was actually the prime minister of Poland about 10 years ago, before the current conservative government of Poland took control. So now Poland has a divided government. They have a right-wing president and cabinet, but they have a split legislature with a pro-EU leftist speaker, okay, or prime minister. The Russian Ministry of Defense reported that a Ukrainian Tochka-U ballistic missile was shot down at 5 a.m. local time over the Belgorod region today. So apparently Ukraine launched a Tochka short-range ballistic missile at Belgorod. An agreement between Russia and Belarus was signed on the 5th and 7th of this month, establishing joint combat training centers. And what you're looking at here is that agreement that was signed. So they're going to have joint combat training centers in Russia and Belarus so they can train together. Biden signed a decree today granting Ukraine a new aid package worth $200 million. This is being reported by Reuters. And the German General Prosecutor's Office announced that it has brought charges against 27 suspects accused of planning a coup d'etat in Germany. And these suspects were Russian citizens. Okay, so very interesting. Sounds like an FSB job that didn't succeed. And apparently, Russian missile defense systems are going to enter combat service on the territory of Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua very soon. And the Chancellor of Austria is against the start of negotiations on Ukraine's membership to the EU under current conditions. And Austria is joining Slovakia and Hungary in being against Ukraine's EU membership. So that's some of the latest breaking news that I have, guys. I will be back tomorrow with more breaking news. And tomorrow I'm going to release a video explaining how you can enter into the 100,000 subscriber giveaway. So stay tuned for that. And other than that, guys, take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, they have brought back their 25% discount on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the discount, you have to use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com. And the link is in the description below this video. And this 3-month emergency food supply has a 25-year shelf life, and it's all contained within 6 rugged, watertight buckets. So it doesn't take up a lot of space. Pretty much anyone can find the space in their home to fit 6 buckets, and it'll cover you for 3 months. And it's a variety of food: lunches, breakfasts, dinners, drinks, snacks, free shipping included, 25% off their normal price. Use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get the discount. They also have a 2-week emergency food supply, which is excellent for outdoorsmen or people who go vehicle camping. You don't have to worry about rotating anything. You don't have to worry about your preps going bad. Just store this stuff in a temperature stable location, not too cold, not too hot, stable throughout the year, and it will last 25 years. They also have a general store. If you click the My Patriot Supply logo at the top of the page when you get to preparewithNYPrepper.com, it'll take you to their general store where they have everything you can imagine, from potassium iodide to water filters, solar generators, solar panels, survival seeds, fire starters, anything you can imagine, it's all there. So use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get 25% off of the My Patriot Supply 3-month freeze-dried food supply. And the link is in the description below this video.